apparently the greater force wasn't able to whisk me away again like how it took me to the other world, so it just called me an Uber to bring me back home. But hey, it's right in the nick of time as the new chapter just dropped. Finally, the second girlfriend of 2026 after 5 months since Kogaway. I'm ready. Huh, well, that was different. Okay, before we get to the actual chapter itself, let's talk about what's coming up next really quick. As following this chapter, we have another break week and then a spin-off chapter, which is a good segue to something I wanted to talk about. Sitting in that other world waiting for my Uber to arrive kinda gave me a lot of time to think. And it made me realize something. Life is too short. Particularly about making videos about the Rentero's family's Family Daily Life spin-off chapters. I think for my work-life balance with everything else I have going on and the kind of content that is usually in those chapters, I think I'm gonna pass making videos on them.
But why?
To be completely honest, the reason why the video for the last two with Uncle Hero and the Isekai Granny Adventure was delayed and made it to a double review was because there was almost really nothing to talk about. Outside of that interesting little tidbit of learning that Uncle Hero is actually a part of the Aijo family, so I thought at least doubling them up in a video at least made the video worthwhile. But after forcing that video out, I think I'm done. At least done with forcing them out. There are some caveats to this change though for the spin-off manga, so let me explain. So for example 1, if we get a chapter that really gives me something to talk about, like for example, the Inda family lineage of teenage pregnancy, then I'll make a video. So like for an example number 2, if we get a chapter that gives me a little something to talk about, like for example, that Hero being confirmed to be an Aijo, leading to the conclusion that he took Chiri's surname and gave that surname to Chiyo, then I'll attach it as like a bonus review to the next mainline series video. Or in example number 3, if we get a chapter that is more like the Granny Isekai Forest Adventure or how the Yakuzens and Day family members met, then I'm just going to skip it altogether and not do a video. So how big this change will be to my work schedule will entirely be based on what Nakamura decides to do with these spin-off chapters going forward, whether they include world building or character building information, or are just goofy adventures. And repeating what I said in my last video, once the schedule hopefully gets back to the norm when Nozawa is fully back from maternity leave, maybe this won't even be that big of a change if we get the Family Daily Life chapters less often. So, we'll see. Only Nakamura and Nozawa themselves know how this will continue. But now that I got that out of the way, let's get on to the chapter itself. I'm Moonlight150, and this is my overview of the latest 100 Girlfriends manga chapter, Chapter 249. Fushida-san is a not at all vulgar class president. Go celebrate the long-awaited arrival of Girlfriend 37 with Sunday by checking out the chapter where they post them, as I won't be going over everything in this chapter to encourage you to go read it for yourself. And share some of that celebration with the official release of the series in your region, as they are about to release the next official volume later this month. Now let's get to the introductions. We open up surprisingly not with Rentero off on his own, but instead in the classroom of our third-year middle schooler girlfriends, Kurumi and Momiji, as they have just received back their scores on a test. Huh, so they actually do school things. Showing that Kurumi didn't do so hot because of her hunger distraction, when they are suddenly confronted by their class president, where apparently her and Momiji had a wager on who would have the highest score between the two of them, to which Momiji won because it seems like she's actually a good student, thus winning the contest. And no contest is complete without a prize, and there's no prize that Momiji wants other than a grope session, which was the stakes for this contest, and Momiji takes her prize with gusto on the class president. It's during this grope session that we get a bit of backstory on the history of the class president and Momiji, how they are neighbors, rivals, and technically childhood friends for almost their whole lives, with the class president always trying to win against Momiji, but ultimately failing like with today's test. I mean, they gotta be at least somewhat friends since they are referring to each other by first name. Turns out Momiji is one of those people who do well at a lot of things without needing new practice or study. Though the class president has beaten Momiji at something according to Momiji herself, and that's having G-cups as a third year in middle school. And this is where we learn that the class president has some self-esteem issues regarding her overly developed body at such a young age. How she has suffered a life of ridicule by people calling her loose and vulgar, and all sorts of other body-shaming words with baseless claims other than she has this body. Oh, I guess I should probably introduce the class president. Her name is Rana Fushida. Wait a minute. Rana Fushida? Fushidarana. God damn it, Nakamura, and your insane naming scheme. This poor girl was destined for a life of torture with a name like that. And also Kurumi hypothesizes that it may be Momiji's fault that she is overly developed at her age from years of losing contests and letting Momiji have her way with her grope sessions. Does this prove that Momiji has magic hands?
No!
Oh god, Momiji now qualifies as a Disney princess. We then catch up with Rana after school as she's still harping on the test score that made her lose to— wait a minute. Isn't this a new girlfriend introduction chapter? Where the hell is Renter? Oh, there he is. The winds of fate are forcing these two to meet as Rana's test flew right out of her hands and into Rentero's face. In any normal new girlfriend introduction chapter, this would have been how the chapter started. And with a quick trip on a rogue soda can on the ground, Rana ends up falling boobs first, knocking Rentero onto the ground. Now, where have I seen that before? Though they are now both in a trance and don't realize how long they have been on top of one another, until Rana's embarrassment gets herself off of him and apologizes profusely. But apparently the wind really has it out for this singular piece of paper, as it takes off again in the breeze. But this time Rentero offers to chase after it himself. But this time the wind is really giving Rentero the runaround as it takes him all the way into the night, and good lord, what happened to you chasing that piece of paper? Rentero then apologizes for taking so long, and that is now 2 girlfriends in a row you kept waiting in the dark and cold. Shame on you, Rentero. Do better. But the struggle of fighting the forces of nature getting that test back has taken its toll on Rentero as he collapses from exhaustion. But thankfully Rana has those god-given airbags and catches him before he hits the ground.
That should be me!
And for what seemed to be the first time in her life, she was thankful for what her body has to offer, as it helped Rentero in his time of need. But the realization of the moment and embarrassment catch up with both of them, and they both start apologizing. And during all of the apologizing, Rentero turns on that iconic Rent-A-Riz, and talks about how earnest her apologizing and the fact that she wanted something as simple as a review test for review is proof enough of her seriousness and not the floozy girl she keeps denying that she is. At least that's how I think it goes. His speech is like 2 pages long. I don't know, go read it for yourself. Rana's young life then flashes before her eyes of all the bullying she has had to endure due to her body. Except for the last one where she is kind of being praised for it, as some other Lewd class president is asking her to join an exclusive club of other Lewd class presidents.
Huh?
Who and how many members does that club have? We have Rana, who is the 3rd-year middle school class president, and she may be lewd in design, but she doesn't want to be. Chio is the class president of the 1st-year middle schoolers, and she isn't lewd. So by process of elimination, is this girl the class president of the 2nd-year middle schoolers? Or maybe one of the high school grades? She definitely has a somewhat unique design. Maybe a little too familiar. But let's keep her on the list of potential background characters becoming girlfriends. There's quite a number of them. Now having someone who sees her for her instead of her body, Rana confesses to Rentero and asks to go out with her. But in the middle of hearing Rentero's response, Rana realizes that she doesn't even know his name, and panics thinking that asking someone out without even knowing their name is another sign of being, well, easy. And she begins apologizing for something Rentero doesn't even consider to be floozy. And there we have it, at long last of the record-breaking girlfriend drought of 2026. We have girlfriend 37 Rana Fushida. And well, I guess I'm just kind of mid on her. I don't instantly like her like I did Kogoe, but nothing about her makes me dislike her right off the bat either. What we know of Rana so far just has me intrigued. Let me explain. Her biggest personality trait is, well, no, not that.
Sorry.
Like many members of the Rentero family now, she doesn't look her age. Looking more like your typical high schooler in this series than most middle schoolers, even more overly developed than Nemu. And that she has a disdain towards it because of the bullying she has received from it, similar to Mamie, but as far as Mamie has divulged, she has never been bullied about her figure. So that leads me to my next question. Usually with new members of the family being added who are quirky outcasts, it's usually trying to figure out how they're going to accept this new quirky individual and how they will mesh with everybody else. The problem with Rana is that she has been bullied by complete strangers her whole life, who has made fun of her body and spread rumors. And well, no one in the Rentero family is going to be doing anything like that. The Rentero family is the world's most accepting polycule. They aren't gonna mock you or disown you for your weirdness or what's different about you. Have you seen some of the freaks already in the group? An overly developed middle schooler who may accidentally fall into doing something risque with her boyfriend is nothing compared to what we already have. Hell, even the pseudo-friends she has in Momiji and Kurumi aren't mocking her while talking to her in class. So her life isn't all terrible for her. She has things like acquaintances. Not everyone has it out for her. So I'm curious what she's going to be like in this series when her biggest gimmick that we have been introduced to so far, that being mocked and bullied for her body, is basically going to be irrelevant. Hell, much like how many in the group praised Kogoe's eyes in the Meet the Family chapter, it's probably going to be something similar. There's probably going to be girlfriends like Hakari and Momoha who are going to be ecstatic to have others like them in the group. But of course, Rana's going to push back on not being lewd like them. I'm also curious how this perception of herself might change now that she has a boyfriend in Rentaro. She didn't want to be seen as vulgar and loose while being single, but will she be slightly more accepting of how her body is now because she has a boyfriend who accepts it, and now has friends within the Rentaro family who accept her and don't mock her? She'll now be entered into a world of body positivity and accepting, kind of like how Mei has been developing lately. Really, the only thing I can see from this chapter continuing into further chapters is that she may be a bit of a klutz who keeps falling into precarious positions. Will this happen when only Rentaro's around, or will it happen all the time and with other girlfriends? But even then, is being a klutz who constantly falls into lewd and suggestive scenarios enough of a character trait to keep her interesting going forward? Speaking of chapters, let's talk about the structure of this one. It's nice that Nakamura still has some tricks up his sleeve in how to introduce new girlfriends. Like I said during the overview, it's a new girlfriend introduction, and Rentaro himself and the zing doesn't even happen until halfway through. All of her characterization came from her normally interacting with her fellow classmates of Kurumi and Momiji, brought out organically as a conversation between someone who knows her well, that being Momiji, and an audience surrogate in Kurumi who is learning more about Rana as a person. Masterfully done, Nakamura. What's also interesting is that most of the things we learn about her, particularly her history with Momiji, are usually saved for the Meet the Family chapter or the Focus chapter. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with the Rana character in those chapters, since backstory and interconnections with past girlfriends have already been established. And new girlfriends tend to latch onto older ones, making groups within the family, like how Kogoe is now with Mei after their outing. So it'll be interesting to see if she sticks with people she is familiar with like Momiji and Kurumi, or will there be someone else Nakamura pairs her up with? I mean, Rana would complete the third-year middle schoolers as a trio with Momiji and Kurumi, plus this chapter somehow gave us Momiji development in the process too. So maybe making a group of Rana, Momiji, and Kurumi will raise my opinion on Momiji if she gets anything more to her character than just groping. As we clearly got something new with Momiji in this chapter, that being that she's naturally good at stuff and has had a long-time rivalry with this Rana character. That's more than we have gone for her in quite a long time. And as much praise as I am giving this chapter because of the way Rana was introduced and organically giving us her characterization without exposition dumping, and developing Momiji of all things, what suffered was her time with Rentaro, being only given half a chapter and a weak premise of catching a flying away piece of paper, making their time together even less when he runs off until nightfall, which in turns make their falling for one another less believable than most of the other girlfriend introductions. Literally all that Rentaro has seen of Rana is that she is obsessively apologetic, clumsy, and a diligent student because she wanted to study a past test. This might even be weaker than Rentaro falling for Kimari because she followed the rules at a lone train crossing. This might be reaching into that kind of territory of that since Rentaro felt that zing, he knew he had to make it work and said whatever he could to piece together to make her fall for him. Like, this has become so routine for him at this point. Instead of the normal Rentaro learning about the best qualities of someone before rizzing them up that we get usually in intro chapters. Hopefully the following chapters give Rana and Rentaro a bit more interaction because we are literally working with the bare minimum here for these two. So that's what I'll end this review on. The most interesting thing about Rana is not her character by herself, her quirk, or her backstory. What's going to be interesting to see going forward is how they're going to continue with this character when most of what we know about her is basically going to be irrelevant when she enters the family. Thankfully, I don't think we'll have to wait too long for this within the series, as these answers should hopefully be answered in their Meet the Family chapter and her Focus chapter like I said. It can't be any worse than Nurse Chiyu's development, right? Right? Unfortunately, like I said at the beginning of the video, we do have a break week coming up, followed by a spin-off manga chapter, so it will be some time before we get the answers we are searching for in how Rana will be handled as a character who has now escaped the clutches of bullying and body shaming, whether they give her a new angle as a character or she will just be the 100 Girlfriends version of Tamaki from Fire Force. Thankfully, I won't be leaving you entirely contentless as we inch ever closer to Season 3 of the anime. If you're watching this video around the time that it airs, this upcoming Friday, June 19th at 8 PM Pacific Standard Time and 11 PM Eastern Standard Time, the Council is once again reconvening to rank each girlfriend introduction chapter, including this very own chapter for Rana, which if you paid attention to about 2 minutes ago, probably won't be very high on my list. Basically, we are asking the question, who zinged the best with Rentaro? Given how much we yap, this may be a two-part stream that will need to be wrapped up on another day as we get through maybe half the girlfriends, if we're lucky. We'll see. So come hang out. It will be streamed on both mine and Chaos Squared's YouTube channel, and if you can't make it because of time zones, it will be archived on both of our channels, as well as there will be an Earl edit of the highlights of the stream since I know a lot of you are a fan of his edits for these long streams. Not only that, but I have not one, but two bonus videos in the works. One that is manga related, and one that is anime related. I know that some of you know what the anime related one is because of the Chaos Square Discord. Don't go spoiling it in the comments, I will be watching. I hope to have both of these videos out before Season 3 of the anime begins airing because, like with Season 2, I will be doing live reactions to the episodes. Possibly even for both the sub and the dub version, depending when that dub version airs. Anyway, that is enough housekeeping. Got a lot of stuff to work on, so I'm gonna be heading out. And like I said, when the next spin-off manga chapter hits, there may or may not be a video on it, depending on what it's about. Oh, and before I forget, we not only hit 3,000 subscribers long before I thought we would, I thought I would need the Season 3 reactions to reach it, but we are still getting even more before the anime airs. So thank you all to the new people who have tuned in for these weird videos of mine. I've been Moonlight150, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to keep up to date with everything that I have planned coming soon. See you all on the stream and the next video.